Why do people use alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs? Such a simple question has such a complex answer. So, in my personal assessment, I believe that people use those items for either as a result of their environment in an attempt to cope with the situation or for genuine pleasure. And so, how I'll try to address these perspectives is by using my own personal experiences. So, the first one that we'll talk about is tobacco, because tobacco is one that actually it wasn't the one I started first. The one I started first was marijuana, but I'll talk about how I started smoking tobacco. The very first time I smoked a cigarette. My very first cigarette came as a result of me being forced to smoke it. Now, I say forced because the old phrase was, did somebody put a gun to your head and make you do it? And in this incident, yes, that's exactly what happened. I was 12. I was 12. And it was after my dad had gone through Hodgkin's disease and he had been through chemo. And I watched my dad quit smoking so that he could get healthy, as I have a cigarette in my hand about to light. And when I was 12, I used to be a runner. So what a runner is somebody that picks up product from one location and drops it off at another location or to a person. So I did that, and I had a guy that I used to work for. And so we all smoked weed. But when they would light cigarettes up, I would always run my mouth. And at 12, being the kid in the room, talking to adults about how stupid they were being for smoking cigarettes and how they were going to kill them, I offended somebody on one of those days, and literally, he said, you know what, look, I'm not going to use the language that was used. He told me, smoke this. I said, no, I ain't smoking that. You ain't going to make me. He pulled his gun out from off his hip, he cocked it, put it to my head, and said, smoke it to figure out what's going to happen next. So, it was from that point that I smoked a cigarette, and at 12, what I learned is that a cigarette actually does have an effect on your body immediately after smoking marijuana. And so people who don't actually pay attention to the nuances of things like this don't recognize that smoking tobacco on the backside of smoking marijuana actually slightly heightens the feel, it heightens the sensations that you have from smoking the marijuana. And so I learned that at 12, like, period. And so from there, that was when I started smoking cigarettes every once in a while after I hit a couple of blunts. And then when I joined the military, I went to smoking cigarettes more often because I couldn't. I was then having to smoke cigarettes because I couldn't really smoke weed, and when I did, I wasn't supposed to. But so I didn't do it that often. But cigarettes were a constant. And so again, that was for my personal enjoyment, and as a result of my environment. It started out being forced, then it was as a personal enjoyment. Now, I smoke cigarettes in passing the time. So it goes to that third phase when I say of coping, because it's not that I have anything that's pressing or anything that's forcing me to smoke a cigarette. It's just a desire that it literally has become a habit. This cessation of putting my hand to my mouth and pulling and drawing in my breath, the smoke filling my mouth into my chest, the process has become habitual. So this is now just a matter of fulfilling that habit more so than it is just wanting to smoke a cigarette. And so then I'll segue this to the recreational drugs. Again, they all have the same three premises in my eyes, because with recreational drugs it's the exact same way. I started smoking weed as a kid because in the environment I grew up in, that was what we did. You were cool if you had a blunt. Back then you can go buy a blunt for $3 if you knew the right cats. Like literally, everybody get $1. We go hit up such and such, I'm not gonna mention names or whatever, and we get us a blunt, and then we go sit on the stoop, we go smoke, we go sit on the generator, we go smoke, we go under the bridge, we go wherever we could go where we knew our parents weren't going to see, because the old heads could see and they didn't care, because they was cool. We was just little knuckleheads being knuckleheads, but our people were the ones we were worried about. And we did it because the thrill of A, having fun, B, doing what we saw the big kids doing, and then C, the thrill of not getting caught. And like in our youth, before our frontal lobe and our cortex has truly grasped a greater understanding of the logic behind our choices, in our youth, those things are exciting. Now, when we get older, as our frontal lobes get bigger, as we grow, as we expand in our understandings, we recognize the folly in those choices. But as a child, it's the excitement that urges us to do it. And so that that is where the environment sits in, and that happens with, again, alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs. And so I'm of the mindset that the ability to use anything is all based on the individual's ability to control themselves with their substance. For example, if you can't smoke weed and be productive, then you need not smoke weed when you need to be productive. In my opinion, those things go hand in hand. To the same effect, if you know you need to drive somewhere, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol. Common sense. Again, that's my personal opinion. And so, in that regard, I don't think that there are problems with people using things if they use them responsibly and within regulation, not regulation, but as they regulate themselves. The problem does come when people take substances that will A, harm themselves, and B, put them in a mental state where they choose to harm someone else. And so, again, I'm not going to ever tell somebody they can't smoke meth. Man, if that's what you want to do, smoke your rocks. I am going to tell you that you shouldn't go steal from someone else so that you can pay for your meth so that you can smoke it. So if you have the ability to responsibly manage your habit, I'll never have anything to say against anybody for any of their personal choices, because we're all entitled to do whatever we want in life. You live in your own skin, not me. But when your choices alter or harm the lives of other people who aren't requesting that you alter or harm their lives, that's when your choices become a problem. And so that's how I feel when it's in the totality of the picture of alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drug use. Should any of them actually be illegal? No, because to say one is illegal and one is legal is to say that my opinion should be the determinant of what makes you happy. And that's where I think our government falls short, because we regulate things that shouldn't be regulated. But should you be able to harm others in your choices? Not at all. And so, again, that's where I stand, and hopefully that addresses this as properly as it needs to be done.